Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And it's good to see you all here today. So in recent weeks, we have been focusing on a writing of Eihei Dogen, the 13th century Japanese Zen teacher and reformer, who, upon coming back from China, wrote about the practice that he recommended, the meditation practice that he recommended, Zazen or Shikantaza, often translated as just sitting. And the first part was as that we've talked about had to do with just sort of an encouragement to try out Zazen, to practice it wholeheartedly. And the middle part had to do with the technique, such as it is, of Zazen. And then this final part, the third part, is again goes back to an encouragement to practice Zazen, just sitting wholeheartedly. I'll read this section for today. In general, this world and other worlds as well, both in India and China, equally hold the Buddha seal, and overall prepares the character of this school, which is simply devotion to sitting, total engagement in immovable sitting. Although it is said there are as many minds as there are persons, still they all negotiate the way solely in Zazen. Why leave behind the seat that exists in your home and go aimlessly off to the dusty realms of other lands? If you make one misstep, you go astray from the way directly before you. You have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. Do not use your time in vain. You are maintaining the essential working of the Buddha way. Who would take wasteful delight in the spark from the flint stone? Besides, form and substance are like the dew on the grass, destiny like the dart of lightning, emptied in an instant, vanished in a flash. Please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. Devote your energies to a way that directly indicates the absolute. Revere the person of complete attainment who is beyond all human agency. Gain accord with the enlightenment of the Buddhas. Succeed to the legitimate lineage of the ancestors' samadhi. Constantly perform in such a manner, and you are assured of being a person such as they. Your treasure store will open up of itself, and you will use it at will. Well, there's a lot going on in those short 3 paragraphs. These 3 paragraphs, as it's divided up, according to this is basically the translation of Waddell and Abe, modified slightly by the San Francisco Zen Center. So this practice of this school simply devoted to sitting at the time in the 13th century of Japan, as we've discussed, it was a time of political turmoil, as well as natural disasters and much difficulty for people. And as is often the case in such times, it's a time of creativity and reform. And the sort of state religion of Tendai Buddhism, which included sitting meditation, but also included many other practices, was approached by reformers who were familiar with this tradition and simplified in various ways. And for Dogen, the simplification was to focus almost entirely on Zazen, sitting meditation. And in the next little section, he talks about why travel afar, looking for this and that, when what you're seeking is directly before you, this body and this mind. Somewhat ironic, perhaps, because Dogen himself had recently returned from the dusty realms of foreign lands. He had traveled to China, studied with various persons, and went from teacher to teacher until he settled on the teacher Ru Jing, which he was with for a relatively short time, but who had a profound effect on him. Ru Jing being a person who also focused steadily on the practice of Zazen. You have gained the pivotal opportunity of human form. This is a recurring theme in Mahayana Buddhism and also in early Buddhism, that a human life is a rare and precious thing. If one ascribes to notions of rebirth, as was common at that time, then a human life was particularly valuable because within a human life, there was enough adversity, but enough awareness to become, as they would say, enlightened, to gain full comprehension. And I think this can be understood in various ways, but I think we all understand the preciousness of a human life, and also the transience of it, the ease with which it can slip away, and the limited amount of time that we all have. I had the opportunity to see, there was a voice teacher who taught at Principia College for a master class And he had all these 20-somethings in front of him, college students who were interested in music, voice, trying to develop their skills. And one of the things he stressed at the end of his talk, he stated in this way: you don't have time. You don't have time. So that in a nutshell gives the same message of the preciousness and transience of this human life. And Dogen says you are maintaining the essential working of the Buddha way. So there's a certain responsibility there that you're in the process of carrying on the Buddha's work, however you perceive that. So whereas we are receiving these teachings from the Buddha, we are also giving back in incorporating them into our lives and modeling the Buddha way. Who would take wasteful delight in the spark from a flint stone? Well, this would be, you can interpret this in various ways, but usually it's interpreted as sensual pleasures, perhaps, although that's a complicated interpretation because avoidance of all sensual pleasures is not the Buddha way. The Buddha tried that and advocated against it and advocated the middle way. But another theme that comes up again and again in Dogen's writings is avoiding the lure of fame and gain. Fame and gain, or as one of my prior division directors would say, glory and gold, avoiding the lure of glory and gold. So then at the last paragraph here, it makes please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. I think that's probably a section that is hard to translate because you do end up with quite a few different variations of it. Okamura translates it this way: you, honored practitioner, after learning in a partial way, like the blind people who touch the various parts of the elephant, please do not be scared by the real dragon. So we read books and we listen to talks and we think about this practice. But the real dragon is sitting with mind and body. Receiving what arises without any attempt at grasping or pushing away. And this is the real dragon. Revere the person of complete attainment who is beyond all human agency. This is alternatively translated, be in accord with the Buddha's awakening. Or respect those who have realized full knowledge and have nothing more to do. Referring to the Buddhas and ancestors, those who have passed on these teachings and this practice to us. And then he says, constantly perform in such a manner, and you are assured of being a person such as they. Your treasure store will open of itself, and you will use it at will. So even though this is a practice of non-doing, it is preparation for being in the world of doing. So during sitting practice, the usual instruction is non-discrimination. Thoughts arise, you don't judge them as good or bad or whatever. But out in the world, of course, we have to discriminate, either skillfully or unskillfully. We have to make decisions about what is wholesome or not wholesome for ourselves and for others. But the practice of non-doing, is very helpful when it comes into the world of doing, because everything looks differently. So the message from Dogen is to trust in Zazen. Trust in your body and mind. Not simply as an exercise, but as a way of life. These teachings, to me, are like gemstones with many facets. So you can see different things in them, so you can come back to them again and again. And they reflect against one another too. There's a reading that I'll end with from a poem that we studied some time back by Shito. Shito was in the 8th century a Zen teacher of 500 years before Dogen, and someone that Dogen would have been familiar with. And one of his writings is Song of the Grass Hut, or Song of the Grass Roof Hermitage. And I'm reading a translation here by Dan Layton and Kaz Tanahashi. But I'd like to read this in the context of the Fukan Zenji that we've just been studying. Just sitting with head covered, all things are at rest. Thus, this mountain monk doesn't understand at all. Living here, he no longer works to get free. Who would proudly arrange seats trying to entice guests? Turn around the light to shine within, then just return. The vast, inconceivable source can't be faced or turned away from. Meet the ancestral teachers. Be familiar with their instruction. Bind grasses to build a hut, and don't give up. Let go of hundreds of years and relax completely. Open your hands and walk, innocent. Thousands of words, myriad interpretations, are only to free you from obstructions. If you want to know the undying person in the hut, don't separate from this skin bag here and now. When I read that section after delving into the Fukan Zazenji once again, it seemed to be all about Zazen. So we'll stop there and conclude, at least for now, this discussion of the Fukan Zazenji. But I wonder if it brings up any questions about meditation practice, about what meditation is for, about any of those such things, or if there are any words or phrases, thoughts or concepts that came up within this study of the Fukan Zazenji that really struck you or resonated with you. So we'll break up into smaller groups for discussion for a few minutes and then return later. Thank you for listening today.